Hello guys, welcome to the last episode of this tutorial, episode number 10. I have decided to, wrap up the tutorial here, but before I let you go, I want to show you one last, improvement and enhancement you can make to your store. So if you remember, we had this employee store inside of this code file, right? Now I want to enhance this using some error handling functionality and of course loading state. So basically this means that when the store is in the middle of fetching some data from the backend, it's gonna turn on a state, loading state, to notify the components or the views that are using this store that it is in the middle of loading something. So this loading state can be helpful when you want to improve the UX or user experience of your application. And error handling basically means that when your store encounters some issue in the middle of fetching some data or posting some data to the server, it can handle that error and it can kind of show to the user that something has went wrong. Let's dive deep to see what we want to implement in this episode. So this is the store that we have right now. This is the actually the new version of the store. So if I take you to my VS Code, this is the store that we have, right? Basically, right now we have two pieces of data. One is the selected employee for example, updating an employee, and one is an array of employees. But we want to add two more pieces of information to the store as well. Error, which will contain the error that the store probably encounters when it wants to communicate with the backend API, and the loading state, which initially is being set to false, but when the store is getting something from the backend API, it is going to turn on the state. It's going to enable the state. It's going to set true, right? Set state to true. And then the error is going to be null. We can check this out. So for example, in fetch employees, take a look at this. First off, the loading will be true because we are going to start loading data from the backend, but the error is going to be false because we haven't encountered any issues yet. Then we enter this try catch finally block, retrying to get something from the backend and set the employees array to whatever the backend returns. But if there is an error, we're going to set the error inside of our state to this string message. And finally, whether we get some data without encountering any issues, or we encounter some error, we are going to set loading to false. So we all know that finally the code inside of the finally block will execute regardless of encountering an issue or not. So whether the code inside of the try block executes and finishes successfully, or whether there is an issue here, the finally block will get executed. The next thing, the exact same thing, or let's say the kind of similar thing happens for fetch employee by ID. You can take a look at this code. It is not that difficult to understand. We have add employee, which has the same update, as you can see. We've got update employee and we've got delete employee. So we are adding two pieces of new state to the store, error and loading. So I'm going to take you to my code to the store, employee store, and I'm going to remove this and I'm going to start writing the new code. Importing define store from Pinia, importing Axios, creating our store, creating the state, employees, selected employee, error, and loading. And then let's create the actions. Fetch employees, setting the loading to true, setting the error to null, and then writing the try catch block. If there is an error, let's set the error state to this string. And finally, we're gonna set loading to false. And now let's repeat the same pattern for the other actions inside of this store. For example, for fetch employee by ID, the same pattern is going to be used with the loading and error state. So finally, block turns loading off or disables loading. Then add employee. The same thing. Finally, let's set false, set loading to false. Update employee. We're gonna set a put request, send a put request, and then fetch the employees, and then set the error to this string if there is an error. Finally, set loading to false. And finally, the delete employee action. Again, the same thing for the error, and finally, block. And we're done. So this is the new version of this, employee store. Now we can start using these two, pieces of information, loading and error. Where? Inside of the components or the, views. So let's briefly read this explanation section as well. So error state holds error messages when an API request fails, initially null and cleared before each request. Loading state, it's a boolean to track whether an async action is in progress or not. This helps to disable buttons or show spinners. This is one way of using this loading state. Each async action sets loading to true and at the start and false at the end in the finally block, and resets error to null before trying the request. And on failure, sets error to a descriptive message to display to the user. Now we can use this new, store with the two pieces of state inside of the home view, for example. Take a look here. We are creating this paragraph, and we are going to render the paragraph only when the store has some error inside of it. And we are going to render the descriptive message inside of the error property or error state. And if loading coming from the store is true, we are going to show this paragraph, right? Otherwise, we are going to, show the employee list component, set the props to the employees array coming from the store, and handling the delete event using this function. So this is the new version of the employee list view. So if I take you to the home view, employee list, I said employee list, the home view, I can get rid of this section and let me, snooze my code completions for now. And then I can start writing the new version of the home view page. If there is an error, render the paragraph and show it. If loading is true, render this paragraph and show it. Otherwise, not otherwise. Also, let's say, show the employee list component. So you see these VF, right? Directives. So basically this means it is like ngIf in Angular. Basically this means that this paragraph, this section, this tag, this piece of code will only render if this condition evaluates to true. So it is basically saying if inside of your store error is set to true. So take a look here. If I come here and refresh, I will see, the list of employees. But if I come to the store, for example, and for the fetch employees, which is being used here, right? So inside of the employee list, component, we are using the fetch. If I take you to employee list, this is the component we are using inside of the home view, right? Take a look here. I am defining the props. I am defining the emits, right? And here in the home view, I am using the store and I am using the fetch employees. And I am using this fetch employees because I want to get a list of employees like the array, and I want to pass that array to the employees prop of the employee list. Now, if inside of my store for the fetch employees, I, for example, change this endpoint to something that doesn't exist, and if I refresh this, it says failed to load employees. Basically, I am rendering this paragraph. This paragraph with this error inside of it. But if I get back to this, and I don't know whether, throttling will help me here or not. I don't know if I have throttling enabled right now. If I change this to slow 3G, I know I need to probably, simulate a delay. But right now, when I refresh this, you will instantly see this paragraph loading, right? And then you will see the employee list component being, rendered. Because, it flashes, it goes off very quickly, but honestly, I can see it. I know that if you decrease the speed of the video, you will see it yourself. You will see this loading, flashing quickly and then disappearing. So this is the way to, for example, leverage those two flags, those two pieces of data, error and loading, defined by the store inside of the home page. So yeah, the paragraph will display any error message stored in the PNI store. If there is an error, the loading paragraph informs the user that a background operation is in progress. This visual feedback improves the UX of your application by informing users of current app status and issues. We have talked about these already, so I'm gonna, skip this section. We talked about props and, emits before. So props are used when you want to pass some data from your parent component to your child component. The syntax is to use, colon, right? It is the shorthand version of using vbind. Employees is a prop in the employee list component. You're binding the value of store.employees, which is being set using the Axios, package dependency, let's say. And then you're getting that data from the backend, and then you are passing that to your child component, which in this case is employee list, right? It has a prop called employees. In plain terms, hey, employee list, here's a list of employees for you to use. It comes from the PNI store. It doesn't even need to know that it is coming from PNI store. All it needs to get is an array of employees. And then reacting to events or reacting to emits using the @ sign. As you can see here, there is this delete emit or event raised by the child component. You're going to handle this using this @ sign. It is the shorthand version of using von, so vbind for passing props, von for handling events. It listens for a custom event called delete that is emitted from the employee list component. When the child component emits this delete event, the parent calls the handle delete. And the handle delete in the home view, the handle delete communicates or leverages the store to send this delete HTTP request to the backend API. And the child component side, we already talked about this. We have, defined the emits, we have defined the props here, and we have, completed this. So the next thing that I want to talk about is that you can use the loading and the errors, these two pieces of data in the employee form component as well. So if you take a look at the employee form, this employee form is used inside of add employee view and edit employee view. So you can control this button. You can, for example, disable this button when the store is in the middle of loading something. So basically, when the store is doing some data fetching, you don't want to allow the user to click that button, that submit button again and again. So what you can do is to control the disabled, attribute of this button based on the value inside of the loading state coming from the store. So basically, you can do something like this. So this is another technique that you can use, another benefit of that, loading and error state. Disabling the submit button during loading prevents users from submitting the form multiple times before the first request completes. So yeah, we talked about, error state, loading state, error message display, button disabled. It helps, your users. It keeps the application, let's say, user-friendly, makes it user-friendly. It improves the UX of your application by, for example, indicating to the user that the application is in the middle of something, or the application has, encountered some issue and cannot, complete the request. And that was it. I want to congratulate you for completing this tutorial. If you have watched all of the episodes, you've really, achieved a great milestone. And what I suggest you do is to continue your learning by watching some of the other playlists on the channel. I have some more advanced, topics covered inside of the other playlists that I have on the channel. You can continue your learning by watching those as well. And you can find the link to the, application files of this, employee application using the link I have, put in the description of the videos. And I hope you've enjoyed watching the whole tutorial and this last episode. And if that's the case, as always, I'd really appreciate it if you could give this whole playlist a chance of being viewed by other people by sharing it, giving this video, a thumbs up, a like. That really helps the channel. It keeps me motivated. It helps the channel by spreading the videos, by allowing more people to watch the videos. And that's it. Let's wrap up this video here, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Take care and bye-bye.